Shalom, Yasharala. This your brother Dawudah, coming back at you with this here truth again. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushai, Bahashim, Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone that taught us this truth and that rule well. And salutation and much love for you, I can pushing this truth and sincerity over the four corners of the earth and enduring afflictions to feed and edify the elect. So I want to jump to this here article real quick, or just touch on this article a little bit. Dealing with more and more of the chariot sightings. Beforehand, a couple of years back, if there was, so-called news like this, you would never see it on the front page of your news articles on the news or anything like that. It would be relegated to the front pages of the tabloids and so-called conspiracy, websites and things like that, man. All right. Or you was to tell somebody about this, people would say that you're crazy. They have protocols like, if you're a pilot or certain things, if you speak out, if you used to speak out about these things, they would either reassign you or put you, you'd be basically taken out of the sky. And if you were in the military and you saw these things, again, they would resign. Well, if you was a regular pilot, you wouldn't fly no more after that. But if you were in the military, they would, give you like a desk job or something like that. You could never talk about these things ever again. All right. But nevertheless, we're coming into a point in time now where all things are being revealed. All right. And now like I said, you're starting to see these things on the mainstream media, the news, where you have the Pentagon coming out with information about these things. It's all on the news. So we're at a point now that if you don't believe these things exist, then you're actually crazy. You're the conspiracy theorist now. Not only have we been telling you about these things, so many people everybody has cell phones. So many people catch these on video. Not only that, like I said, you have the news and the military and all these people telling you that these things are out there, man. All right. But to answer the question of what they are, because they call them UFOs, they got a different name for them, but UFO, unidentified flying object. All right. Now, and some people would say, because back in the olden days, before we knew what drones were, people could mistake a drone for basically what we're going to call a chariot. All right. But in reality, it's an unidentified flying object. They don't know what it is and things like that. All right. But we're not talking about unidentified flying objects. There's a lot of things that you may or may not be able to identify. All right. Off your normal sight. But what we're talking about is very distinctive and very descriptive. And they all pretty much have the the same characteristics. All right. You see all these YouTube videos. All right. For the most part, they always look like these orbs, colorful. Sometimes, hell, you even see some really big ones sometimes, man. All right. They're always very quiet. Sometimes they just, are just sitting there. Sometimes they buzz by really fast. Sometimes they move really, really slow. All right. You even have brothers. I mean, there's plenty of videos where you'll see them coming in rank and files and straight lines, rank after rank after rank after rank after rank for just a long time, man. All right. Or you just see a fleet of these bad boys coming in. All right. You even had not so long ago where I think it was a video out of Iran where their military started engaging one of these chariots. And it was just literally just like letting loose on this chariot, man, just round after round. Like there was thousands of rounds. Just all you could see in the sky was like, the tracers of these rounds just going up. Like, if you're looking at the whole screen, just imagine, back in the olden days before, like if you was to dial into a channel that wasn't there. Nowadays, the channels just turn blue. But back in the old days, they had this thing called white noise, right? You see all that white and black little dots all over the screen. It's pretty much what the sky looked like from these bullets. But then you had this one chariot that was just going back and forth in between all of that. And now these bullets is traveling fast as shit, right? But this thing, this chariot was moving even faster than all that. You would see it speed up and slow down and it didn't get hit not one time, man. All right. And it was unloading on this thing, man. All right. But hey, man, there's multiple accounts of these things out everywhere. All right. So let me breeze through this here article real quick. It says football star Chris Smalling saw crazy UFO in the sky, but had not taken magic mushrooms, promised his Godsmack model wife. It says ex-England football ace Chris Smalling wife Sam had claimed that the couple were Godsmacked to see a UFO that was 100 billion% not a drone, with the model protesting her sanity while appealing for similar sightings. And one thing I can say about this is you'll be able to tell if somebody's actually telling you a story if they actually seen a real quote-unquote UFO in their life, because just like when you read in the scriptures about like when some of these men seen angels, there was a certain effect it had on them. Like you read sometimes where they seen an angel or something and they was like sick for a couple days. They just didn't really want to talk about it and things like that. Hey, man, and I'll tell you from my real experience, even before coming to the truth, finding out what they were, I had two different experiences where I seen two different UFOs, and these was clearly UFOs, man. There was no doubt about it. There was this one that came down below the tree line from where I was sitting, It was this huge like green thing, and it just came down, and it was so quiet. Like I said, this thing was so big and somewhat nearby. Like if it was a plane or something like that, you would have heard it because this shit was big. You know what I'm saying? Like super big. All right. And like I said, it came down below the tree line and everything like that, man. All right. And this was like at nighttime, and this thing was big and green. The other one was even more bizarre of a scenario where it was like, now you can go on YouTube and look at the UFO over Jerusalem. And this one had the characteristics like that where it came straight down right now. And in that video it was blue, but it didn't really light up the whole area around it. Now where I was at, and when I seen this, it was like in the middle of the night, right? And like they're saying, there was no drugs and no alcohol being involved. All right, we were just actually getting back and everything like that. And all of a sudden, like I said, this is in the middle of the night. You know, all of a sudden, this big blue chariot like thing came straight down, not really in front of us, but behind a tree line. But when it came down, all right, this thing was so bright that, again, it's in the middle of the night, the whole sky lit up as if the sun was out. So it was like damn near broad daylight. All right. Not only that, it knocked out all the power around us. You could hear all the power and electricity going down, right? We even left. Now, like I said, this was like years before I even came into the truth. Long time ago. But nevertheless, we wound up going by the McDonald's and things like that. And they was like, yeah, even their power was out and everything else like that, you know? So it wasn't just, you know, maybe, oh, y'all was tripping. No, this had effects on the surrounding areas where we were at. Like I said, it was in the middle of the night, whole sky lit up as if it was daylight. And it was like this for maybe 2 or 3 minutes. All right. And then this thing went straight back up in the air, and then you could hear all the power and everything cutting back on, people's alarms chirping and resetting. Like I said, it had an effect on every damn thing, man. All right. And then the reaction between me and the people that I was with, like I said, we were just coming back, and all of a sudden we seen that. Nobody said nothing to nobody. We just took our shit and we all departed and went home. We never talked about it, right? Because it was unexplainable. And then also just seeing them in other times, you know, their movement and things like that is undescribable, man. It's not like, you know, seeing multiple ones together. Planes don't fly this close to other planes. Helicopters don't fly this close to other helicopters and things like that. Drones and stuff like this, they don't do all these types of things. You don't have two different light orbs fly into one another and combine into one, or one turn in about 2 or 3 or 4, or change sizes or disappear and reappear somewhere else, man. All right. So going back into the article, it says cover girl Smalling, who was best known for in the UK for a topless photo shoot in tabloid newspaper and Lads magazine, voiced her amazement after the unidentified object flew down low past the pair before shooting back into the sky for at least an hour until they had to leave the scene. And so, like I said, that sounded like pretty much the second one that I seen, where it came straight down, and it was down for about maybe 2 or 3 minutes, and then it literally just shot back up to the sky super fast. All right. It says the flabbergasted glamour pinup insisted she had nothing to gain from any of this, as she described the massive and totally silent anomaly in the night sky, saying it was like 2 separate 3D rectangles rotating around each other with the faint lights moving around the edges. All right. And so, hey, just like, you know, like I said, when other people tell you about some of these stories, sometimes you're like, well, I'm not really trying to tell you this story to gain, and it's not like, oh, I'm getting paid for this or anything like that. But like, hey, yeah, I done seen one before, you know. Hey, I'm just letting you know I done seen one before, you know. But nevertheless, you know, and coming into the truth, man, the Lord shows us these chariots all the time, you know, as a faith booster. All right. It says, let me jump down because a lot of this isn't really all that. It says it was not like a quick few seconds sighting in the sky, high in the sky, that could have been a plane. We could have got it on camera when it was flying past us, as it was clear to see, but we were both too godsmacked to get our cameras out. Plus, we didn't want to look away and miss whatever it was. It didn't look like your typical UFO sighting. It was totally silent, crazy. And that's, again, from seeing these things, being around these things, and hearing people's like how they describe these things. Like I said, they were obviously close enough to where if this was an airplane or some type of machinery, obviously they would have heard the sound of it. You know what I'm saying? From the distance that they were. And like I said, man, hey, a lot of times, I don't know if I ever heard of any case of anybody actually hearing these things. And I'm pretty sure they can make noise, but hey, man, you know what I'm saying? Like, yo, this thing was too big to be, you know, anything like a drone or anything. And plus, there was no sound to this thing, man. All right. And plus, they saw it for quite a while. All right. Oh, come on. All good. Let's get into some scriptures real quick. In fact, we can start here. Now, when you read Ezekiel chapter 1, a lot of people say, oh, there ain't no so-called UFOs in the Bible and this and that. Like, literally, if you read the scriptures, all right, and the Lord has the Holy Spirit on you to be able to see these things, the chariots are throughout the whole scriptures, man. All right, that's what they're talking about. Some people will say in certain areas, like, oh, that's not what that was, not what that was talking about. Like, well, we'll try to grab the Lord's will coming up out of Egypt, pillar of fire a cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. All right, that was a so-called UFO. Some people are like, oh, that wasn't no UFO, but like I said, Lord's will be able to get it. But when you read into other things, like I said, if you read the whole scriptures, without a shadow of a doubt, this is what they're talking about. All right, and Lord's will, we'll get some of these examples about like how people were actually taken up into these things, aka like people would say today, they was quote unquote abducted by these things. So it's no question of what it was. All right, now when you read through the whole book or the whole chapter of Ezekiel 1, that's what they're giving you a description of these things. All right, but we're gonna just touch on a little bit of it real quick. And matter of fact, for time's sake, we'll just start here. All right. Like I said, when you read all of Ezekiel chapter 1, this is what it's talking about, all right? It's talking about these chariots. Let me read the first, Ezekiel 1:4 says, and I looked, and behold, a whirlwind. All right, so in the scripture, sometimes they're referred to as whirlwinds, clouds, or chariots, all right, or the chariots of the Lord, right? Now, when you go into the chariot is basically just a vehicle, all right? So it says, when I looked, and behold, a whirlwind came out of the north, and a great cloud, and a fire enfolded in itself, and the brightness was about it. And out of the midst thereof was the color of amber, and out of the midst of the fire. So again, this had a so-called light source. So it had like they had a lot of people describe them as seeing these different colors and things. And they'll even go into the colors when you read into it. Not only that, they tell you what's inside the chariots. Quote, like people would say, oh, there's aliens in there. Well, they describe, but they are. They're actually the angels. All right, these are the vehicles that they travel in. But here it says, and I looked, and behold, a whirlwind came out of the north, and a great cloud. So, and then also a fire enfolding on itself. So it says a whirlwind, a cloud, and a fire enfolding on itself. All right. So when you go into these things, it's actually describing a so-called UFO, right? Let's jump down to verse 16. Like I said, you read the whole chapter, it's giving you more of a description about it, And when you go to church, all these people that say, oh, you bugged out, ain't no UFOs in the Bible. I guarantee you they've never read the first chapter of Ezekiel chapter 1, all right? Because they were like, damn, this was here the whole time. Put them into their perspective, all right? Verse 16 says, the appearance of the wheels and their work was like unto the color of beryl, all right? And they four had one likeness, and their appearance and their work was as it were a wheel in the middle of a wheel, all right? So as going into this thing is almost like a spherical shape, all right? And when they went upon their four sides, and they turned out when they went. So if you can imagine, like if you was to, you're driving a car or you're on a bike or something like that, when you're going to go make a turn, like if you're riding a bike, you're in motion, all right, with a little bit of speed, you can't make a 90-degree turn on the bike, all right, not while in motion, all right, you'll fall off of it, or like try that on a motorcycle, you know what I mean, or like an airplane, all right. When you see airplanes so-called turning, like if they're in the sky and they're turning, they have to kind of bank to the left or bank to the right to make this here turn. It's not like planes don't make a sharp 90-degree turn in the air, all right. But now this is being described as completely different. All right, because like an airplane, when you look at an airplane, you can visually see where the front of the airplane is, and you can visually see where the back of the airplane is. Where the nose is, that's the front. Where the tail is, that's the rear. Now, when you look at what they're describing these chariots as a spear, right? When you look at a soccer ball, right? Now, you can't describe where the front of the soccer ball is, or where the back of it is, or where the left side of the soccer ball is, or the right side of the soccer ball is. It's all from the perspective. All right, so if you're behind the soccer ball and you're kicking it forward, obviously it's moving forward, right? But then somebody can take the soccer ball as you're kicking it forward and immediately kick it to the left or to the right, and it's just going to go like that. It doesn't have to bank out like an airplane would do if it's trying to make that turn. Same with these here chariots, man. All right, they just, it's pretty much like if you rolled a soccer ball or hell, when you playing pool, you hit the pool balls and, they just break and they all go in different directions. It's not like that. You can find the front of a pool ball or the back or the left or the right side, whichever direction it's traveling in, that's going to be the front. It's always moving straight. All right. You never see a more or less to say a ball moving backwards, quote unquote. All right. Verse 17, and when they went upon their four sides, and they turned not when they went. All right. And as for the rings, they were so high, they were dreadful, and their rings were full of eyes round about them. All right, so they had all these windows and things like that. And when the living creature went, the wheel went by them. And when the living creature was lifted up from the earth, the wheels were lifted up. Whithersoever the spirit was to go, they went. Whether there were thither was their spirit to go, and the wheels were lifted up over against them, and the spirit of the living creature was in the wheel. All right, well, let me keep reading. Verse 21, and when those went, these went, and when those stood, these stood. And when those were lifted up from the earth, the wheels were lifted up over against them, for the spirit of the living creature was in the wheel. So they're telling you about, because they described the quote unquote creatures that was in there, right? So there's something that's inside of these things piloting these things that they're describing, right? Now, to break this down, because some of this wordage kind of sound a little, confusing to some people, but just to break it down in layman's terms, it's just like you driving in your car, right? Once you get in the car, wherever your spirit go, your body go, the car is going to go, because you're the one piloting the car, right? So if you go on straight, just like they say, like a vehicle in motion, you going 60 mile an hour, and then you all of a sudden hit a brick wall, your body is still in motion at 60 mile an hour. You're going to go forward. That's why some people go through their windshields when they have car accidents like that, man. All right. So when it's talking about when those went, these went, and when those stood, these stood. And when those was lifted up from the earth, the wheels were lifted up over against them, and the spirit of the living creature was in the wheel. So, or verse 20, whithersoever the spirit was to go, they went, right? So, you could say the same thing about yourself and your car. Wherever your car is going is the same place it's taking your body at, all right? Because it's being transported, your body is being transported by the vehicle itself, all right? Letting you know that these things were inside this here, quote unquote, well, it's a chariot, all right? A vehicle, all right? And then it said, verse 19, and when the living creature went, the wheels went by them. And when the living creature was lifted up from the earth, the wheels were lifted up. So these were flying objects, all right? So it's clearly talking about flying objects with something on the inside, and they describe it with the different colors and everything else like that, all right? Now, real quick, I'm going to try to breeze through some of these here scriptures of some accounts. What am I looking for? Okay, yeah. Slack here. 2 Kings chapter 2 and verse 1, it says, and it came to pass when Yahweh would take Elijah up. So, and it came to pass when Yahweh would take up Elijah into heaven by a whirlwind, that Elijah went with Elisha from Gilgal. And so, some people will try to break that down. Well, it ain't talking about that. Like, what is it talking about? All right, let's get to it. Let's go to verse 11. 2 Kings 2 and 11. And it came to pass, as they still went on and talked, that behold, there appeared a chariot of fire. Now, let's just think about this for a moment, because they talk about chariots in the scriptures all the time, right? A lot of the times when they're talking about these chariots, they're talking about horse-drawn chariots, right? The horses are carrying these chariots, right? Now, you imagine that. You set a damn chariot on fire with a horse pulling it. That shit ain't gonna last too long. This is not what it's talking about. All right. This is talking about like what we're reading about, these quote unquote UFOs. All right. It says, and it came to pass as they still went on and talked. So you got two guys sitting face to face talking, that behold, there appeared a chariot of fire and horses of fire. All right. Again, ain't no horse gonna be set on fire. You know what I'm saying? And parted them both asunder. So this thing came between the two of them, right? And Elijah went up by a whirlwind into heaven. All right, so they describe it as a chariot of fire and horses of fire, but then also a whirlwind, that a person was taken up off the ground, up into heaven, into this thing that they also classify as a whirlwind, right? So now, like I said, man, you have to be a conspiracy theorist. You got to be one of these nut jobs or whatever, whatnot, to not understand what the hell is being talked about right here at this point in time, because they break it down and they describe it all to you. Yeah, it don't say a quote unquote UFO in here, but it's giving you all the description. So without a shadow of a doubt, you can't say it's something, whatever else it is, man. You can't just say it was a whirlwind, like a so-called hurricane or something like that, because why would they say a chariot of fire, a horse of fire? All right, it wasn't no real chariot, all right, that was set on fire, because why would a person get into a burning chariot? He would just burn up. All right, why would you have a horse that was on fire that's just going to just walk up between two men talking and let one of them just get in and then you're going to just take off? And then they didn't just get in and just take off and keep walking down the road. No, they went up into heaven into this thing, man. All right. The next verse says, and Elisha saw it and he cried. So the reaction, oh, Lord, oh, shit. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, when people really come across these things, you will be able to tell about their reactions about these things. Like how they said that they was in that article, they was God smacked, they was all paused or whatever, whatnot. And she kept explaining, look, I'm trying to tell you, we was not on no drugs. This isn't. I'm trying to tell y'all because it. Like I said, man, when you see these things for real, the first thing that happens is you process everything in your mind of what you think you know and everything else like that to the point is like, is this a plane? Does it have the characteristics of a plane? Is it this? Is it that? Is it this? Is it that? And all those things come back as negative. So you just kind of taken back. All right. So it says, and Elisha saw it and he cried, my father, the chariots of Israel and the horsemen thereof. And he saw it no more. And he took hold of his own clothes and rent them into two pieces. So he was even bugged out. He was like, oh, shit. Just imagine, just for real. You and another brother talking or something like that, and all of a sudden a quote-unquote UFO just roll up on your ass, and one of y'all, or he gets sucked up into it. Bro, what's your reaction going to be, man? Even if you in the truth and you know about it, man, that's going to be one thing you're going to talk about forever. Like, yo, me and one of the brothers, we was out there holding camp, you know what I'm saying? And all of a sudden a chariot rolled up and came and took one of the brothers up into the chariot, man. Bro, that's going to be on your heart and your mind for a long time. You're going to want to tell everybody about that, man. First, you might even be silent. You might be shook up, like, yo, what the hell just happened? You know what I'm saying? But, hey, at the same time, man, this is what's written in the scriptures, man. All right? Matter of fact, there's another account in here, too. All right, nevertheless, I thought it was right here. Yeah, it is right here. Yep. Right. So let me start. So just to give you a little bit of backdrop, right? So basically, the city was being surrounded, right? And you have Elisha, right? And there's a young servant with them, right? And they're basically up in this here, like not to say a tower or a castle or anything like that, but they was basically inside of a building, right? So it says, let me start at verse 13. And he said, go and spy where he is, that I may send and fetch him. And it was told, saying, behold, he is in Dothan. Therefore sent he thither horses and chariots and a great host, and they came by night and compassed the city about. So they surrounded by actual like horses and chariots, right? Like an actual army, right? Is what's surrounding them, right? And when the servant of the man of the Most High was risen early and gone forth, behold, a host compassed the city, both with horses and chariots. And his servant said unto him, alas, my master, how shall we do? So literally, these was actual horses and chariots that was surrounding them. So they had a military surrounding them, right? So the young man woke up and he was shook. Oh, shit, man, they got us surrounded. What we finna do, right? And he answered, fear not, for they that be with us are more than they that be with them, right? And Elisha prayed and said, Yahweh, I pray thee, open his eyes that he may see. And Yahweh opened the eyes of the young man. Now, obviously, the dude, he wasn't blind because he could see that they was surrounded, right? But what he's telling him is to open up his mind to be able to see spiritually what's going on around him. Because, like, every day, man, the chariots are out there, just people aren't necessarily looking up and looking at these things, man. Or they'll see them and just like, oh, this might be a plane or something like that, or a star or something like that. And they don't really take too much heed to those things, man. So what you have to understand is that, you know, if it's not for the Lord that has your eyes opened up to see these things, then you're not going to, you know, you're not going to be able to perceive what's really going on, even though there's multiple accounts of these things, man. Like I said, most people have to have the government or the military or the news and them to quote unquote okay something before people believe it. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? But nevertheless, hey man, if the Lord don't have the spirit on you to be able to see these things, then you're not going to see it, man. And this ain't nothing that's so-called spiritual for you to see. All right. So it says, and Elisha prayed and said, Yahweh, I pray thee, open his eyes that he may see. And Yahweh opened the eyes of the young men, and he saw, behold, the mountain was full of horses and chariots of fire round about Elisha. And when they came down unto him, Elisha prayed unto the Lord and said, smite this people, I pray thee, with blindness. And he smote them with blindness according to the word of Elisha. All right. Yeah, but basically going into this was a scenario where they was basically being surrounded by a military, more or less to say. All right. But, the chariots was actually there. All right. And then they manifested themselves. They basically scattered these people that was out there with them and then delivered them up out of there, man. All right. There's another scenario in, was it Exodus? I think it's Exodus 2. Salaki, give me a second. There it is again. I'm not going to really go too much into all of this for time's sake, but hey, you read about them or read about us coming up out of the land of Egypt. This is what we were following to walk up out of there. Oh, here we go, right here. This is what I want to eat. Exodus chapter 14, I'm going to start at verse 24. And it came to pass that in the morning watch, Yahweh looked into the host of the Egyptians through the pillar of fire and the cloud and troubled the host of the Egyptians. So going into this, remember, it was a pillar of fire or a cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. So you got the Egyptians right there, but the Most High had this chariot right there, all right? And this is what they were afraid of. It says, and took off their chariot wheels that they drove them heavily, so that the Egyptians said, let us flee from the face of Israel, and for the Lord fighteth for them against the Egyptians. All right. Matter of fact, I know what I'm looking for. It's in Numbers, I think. So give me a second. Well, here it is again. Numbers 14 and 14. It says, let me read from 13. And Moses said unto Yahweh, then the Egyptians shall hear it, for thou broughtest up this people in thy might from among them, and they will tell it to the inhabitants of the land, for they heard how thou Yahweh art among this people, and thou Yahweh are seen face to face, and that thy cloud standeth over them. Now, who's going to be afraid of a cloud, like a rain cloud? Come on now. All right. It says, and how that thou cloud standest over them, and thou goest before them by daytime in a pillar of a cloud and in a pillar of fire by night. So this is actually a quote unquote UFO. I think it's chapter 2, Salakia. Well, we can start at verse 9. Joshua 2 and 9. It's talking about Rahab the harlot. And she said unto the men, I know that Yahweh hath given you the land, and that your terror is fallen upon us, and that all the inhabitants of the land faint because of you. For we have heard how Yahweh dried up the water of the Red Sea for you when you came out of Egypt, and what you did unto the two kings of the Amorites that were on the other side of the Jordan, Sihon and Og, whom ye utterly destroyed. And as soon as we heard these things, our hearts did melt. Neither did there remain any more courage in any man because of you. For Yahweh your power, he is God in heaven above and in the earth beneath. All right. So going into these things, man, they understood and they could see that this chariot was approaching them as they was coming up onto their lands. All right, so basically the people was afraid of these things. All right, 66 and 15. Isaiah 66 and verse 15 says, for behold, Yahweh will come with fire, and his chariots like a whirlwind, to render his anger with fury and his rebuke with flames of fire. So when Yahushua returns, and which we'll close out on that actually, when Yahushua returns, matter of fact, let me grab one more real quick before that. When Yahushua returns, he's going to be coming back in these chariots, man. All right. Psalm 68 and 17, the chariots of the Most High are 20,000, even thousands of angels, the Lord is among them as in Sinai in the holy place. So just like back when the movie was out, coming up out of Egypt, all right, the chariots, the Lord was in one of those chariots, right? Even Moses, he was like, yo, you can't see me, but I'm going to let this chariot pass over you. And then when I pass over you, you can look up and you can see, you know, me passing past you. You know what I'm saying? This is what it's talking about. Like I said, I brought out plenty of scriptures where it's undeniable. This is what it's talking about. It's not talking about an actual, like a horse-drawn chariot. Because ain't nobody getting in no chariot that's on fire. You wouldn't get into a burning car, right? All right? You wouldn't, you know, a person getting sucked up out of the, you know, off the ground into the air, getting taken off the earth into one of these things, all right? So these are actually talking about quote-unquote UFOs. We'll close out right here in Revelation chapter 1, verse 7. It says, and this is how Yahushua is going to return. Revelation 1, verse 7. Behold, he cometh with clouds, and every eye shall see him, and they also which pierced him, and all kindreds of the earth shall wail because of him. Even so, amen. All right, so going into this, when Yahushua comes back, it says he cometh with clouds. The clouds it's talking about is with those so-called UFOs, man. All right, and this is actually what it's describing throughout the scriptures. Salak, this is the last one. Revelation 19 and 11. And I saw heaven open. Behold, a white horse. Now, this white horse is a representation. White is pure. Horse is power, right? Pure power. And I saw heaven open. And behold, a white horse. And he that sat upon him was called Faithful and True. And in righteousness he doth judge and make war, all right, with these chariots, all right? Let me jump down to verse 14. And the armies which were in heaven followed him upon white horses, clothed in fine linen, white and clean. So going into this, you know, it's talking about, you know, when the Lord's coming back, he's coming back with the chariots, and basically he's going to fight Revelation 12 and 7 says, and there was a war in heaven. This is talking about in the skies. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels. All right, which this is talking about, you know, when the Lord comes back, Esau has a plan. You can read this in 2nd Ezra chapter 13. Esau has a plan on fighting against the Lord and the chariots, man. This is why they're developing their space force, these laser weapons and so on and so forth, man. All right, to actually go to war, wage war against the Lord, man. All right, but, you know, I just wanted to touch in, you know, I didn't mean to go on this long, but I just want to touch in on how, you know, the so-called UFOs are written throughout the whole scriptures, man. All right, but, you know, most people don't read their Bibles like, you know, how they should. You know, they'll read a psalm here, psalm there, and that's about it. You know, they don't even know what the hell an Israelite is. They don't know what an Edomite is. You know, what nation anybody come from out of the Bible. They don't know what Gad is, let alone a so-called UFO. They've never read, like I said, Ezekiel chapter 1, man. All right, but nevertheless, we're going to close out with that. Lord willing, the elect was edified with this here lesson. Until next time, I say, call halal Yahweh by Hashem Yahushua, by Hashem Rakak Wadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone that taught us this truth and that rule well. And salutation and much love for you, Aki, and pushing this truth and sincerity over the four corners of the earth and enduring afflictions to feed and edify the elect. Until next time, I say, stay strong. Shalom.